So, acceptance of the agenda, unless there's any changes, we're good to go. Okay, Libby, announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This meeting is being video and audio recorded in accordance with the provisions of the open meeting law. We have a number of committee, board, and commission vacancies coming up, and this is the time of year where we start advertising and trying to get people to apply. The list of all of the committee openings is shown right here on the screen. It's also online. There's a procedure for advertising and collecting applications, and there are 2 public hearings, and then ultimately the board will make its committee appointments on June 21st. So if anybody's interested in volunteering, there's a lot of opportunity.
Hang on, Libby, can I make a plug for the Town Government Committee? Needs 7 people. We've 3 or 4 people have expressed interest, and it's supposed to do it every 5 years, and we didn't do it last time. So if you're interested, please sign up.
Lastly, we have our ongoing announcement about the water main project with Wannacomet Water that's taking place in the Prospect Street area, and that will be ongoing for the next couple of weeks.
All right, great, thank you. All right, anyone with public comment for something not on the agenda tonight? All right, seeing none, to new business. I'm not aware of any, so we'll move on. Approval of minutes, warrants, and pending contracts. If we don't hear anyone have any complaints about minutes, they'll be approved as written. And Libby, will you go through the contracts?
Thank you. We have 2 pending contracts. One is a professional services agreement for town administration with Barrett Enterprises, $35,200. This is for the demolition of a structure at 5 Sheep Pond Road. It's the demolition and the removal of other items such as the septic and the well, and there's an irrigation system. This is a house that has been up on blocks for several years. It's been condemned. The town has exhausted all legal and other options to try to get the homeowner to remove the structure themselves. It's very close to a bluff. There's a lot of concern that given a good strong nor'easter or something like that, it'll go over. So we're taking the opportunity to remove it ourselves, and it's going to be costly. We're going to fund that from the public buildings budget for now, but ultimately we're going to go to the finance committee and seek a reserve fund transfer. We also have a professional services agreement.
And point out that it's going to take care of the septic and the well. It's expensive because you have to take everything out from underground. Some of the complaints we get on the North Shore are South Shore are some of the houses that have the stuff still in the ocean. And so this will not have that happen.
Yep. We have a professional services agreement for Plus with On Island Carpet, $6,120. And this is for some new flooring in some rooms at the 2 Fairgrounds building, and that funding is coming from the Plus budget.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve pending contracts.
We got a second? Do you have a second for those? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, great. And everyone's okay with the minutes, is that correct? Yes. Okay. So moving on, we are at citizen departmental requests. Request for acceptance of declaration of restriction for Old Spouter condominium located at 118 Orange. Andrew, you want to explain it to us?
Certainly. Thank you, Board of Selectmen. So this was discussed during the presentation of the warrant article to the Board of Selectmen back prior to town meeting. One of your members who is not with us here at the table any longer was concerned about the height at this, in the event that this property was rezoned. The owners agreed to put a height restriction on. They've executed that, and in order to move forward with this and make it binding, the selectmen need to accept it.
Does any of the selectmen have any questions? Now is your time to do so. Okay. All right, so do I have a motion?
So moved.
Accept? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're going into public hearings. And the first public hearing is taking of sewer easements on private streets as part of Harbor Shimo Plus parcels. And it is we're going to do these in groups. The first one we're going to do is Meadowview Drive area, and then we'll do Green Meadows and Tashima, then we'll do Bayberry. Okay?
Good evening, everyone. David Gray, Sewer Director. I have along with me tonight Dan Sheehan from Weston and Sampson, and Andrew. We're going to work through all this, and also Vicky is here from Copeland and Page. So I'm going to let Dan come up and take a lot of this and work in conjunction with everybody to see if we can get this done smoothly.
Yeah. And just for everyone to know, we'll have a presentation, and then if people have questions or comments about that specific area, we'll take those before we close the public hearing.
Hi, thanks. My name is Dan Sheehan with Weston and Sampson. So the first slide you see here, this is the Meadowview area. And areas highlighted in yellow are the private roads that the town needs to take sewer easements on. The purpose of the sewer easement is to allow the town to install as well as maintain the pipelines. So this is, all these easements in this area are within the private right-of-way. I don't know if there's...
So you haven't had to take any from any of the...
There's no private property easements in this area. These are all within the right-of-way in this area.
Right, for Meadowview, and that includes Friendship and Somerset.
Friendship,
all this, yeah.
Somerset, Walnut Squid, Pinkham Circle, Pond,
Okay.
and Meadowview Drive, is in Hussey Farm Road as well.
Okay, great, thank you. So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone that's here that'd like to speak about the Meadowview Drive area? Any comments? Okay,
Oh, it looks like there's one.
oh, there's one, yep. Yep, come up to the mic, please, and identify yourself, please. Just for the camera.
Deborah Wilson,
All right.
37 Friendship Lane. I have a question whether there's going to be, not sure exactly how I want to word it. We just put in a brand-new septic on our property on Friendship Lane, and I'm wondering if there's going to be any relief to individuals like ourselves.
Right. That might be a Roberto question.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
The short answer is that it depends on which septic system. If it's an IA, if it's a relatively new IA, you have an automatic 10-year variance that pushes your time frame back to when you have to connect to the sewer. If it's not an IA, you have to connect to the sewer when it comes there. We do have the town's betterment loan program where we do offer the monies to connect if you don't have the capital immediately to connect to the sewer, but that's as much as we have. An innovative and alternative system. It's a nitrogen-reducing system, anything from a Septitech, a Microfast, a drip dispersal system, things like that. You would have an operation and maintenance agreement already in place if you had one.
All right, is there any other comments on the Meadowview Drive area? Okay, yeah, come up to the mic, please. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't speak into the mic, the people on
All right.
TV can't hear you.
Oh, that's okay. 32 Friendship Lane, Susan Dragon. I just wanted to know the projected date that the project was going to start.
Okay.
The project is not going out for bid yet. We're anticipating that coming up shortly. But construction will not start until September of 2017, and then continuing on through to about approximately until May.
Mr. Chairman, now might be a time to also mention, there's a lot of information on the town website about the project and in the paper. This last week, I think, was the third time we had a public notice about different aspects of the project, including funding of it, its schedule, and some other information. So please check the town website, and we're also happy to take names. There's a special email we've established for the website, as well as subscription. Did we set up a subscription thing if we send out notices? Okay, so, sorry, we didn't do that. But there is a special email if you want to, if at any time anybody has a question, they can use that.
And there's also on the website, there are public meetings, neighborhood meetings being set up for each of the project areas. So if you go on the website, you'll see what day and location those meetings are being set up for.
All right, Meadowview Drive area, anyone else care to comment? Yep, come back to the mic, please.
Deborah Wilson, 37 Friendship Lane. My question is whether the town will take Friendship Lane, which is currently a private road.
Right. Yeah, we're taking easements for the sewer themselves, but I don't think we have any plans. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We
but-
do not have any plans to take any of the roads that are currently private.
So these are easements solely for the use for the sewer.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just while we're on the subject of information, the Meadowview, the upcoming neighborhood meetings, just if people want to make a note, the Meadowview area is Monday, May 15th at 5 o'clock here in this room. And there's a Tashima area meeting on Tuesday, the 16th at 5 o'clock in this room. And a lot of these, we've had one already, and there were a number of questions about private roads and repairs and things like that.
Okay. Okay. So what are the actions if we close the public hearing? It's all one, so keep it open and then we'll do it at the end. Okay, so we're done with Meadowview Drive. Now, anyone have any comments or questions on B, which is Green Meadows and Tashima Lane? Now is your chance. If you have questions or comments, come up to the mic, please.
Hi, I'm Jill Sandoli. I live at 12 Green Meadow. I think my question was probably answered, but just to clarify, I do have one of the new septic systems in the last couple of years. I had to take a huge loan out to pay for it. Work for a nonprofit, and I'm single, and so I'm very concerned because I don't have the money to pay for a new sewer system. So that's my concern.
All right. Roberto, you want to
So
answer us again?
10 year, I'd have a variance for 10 years?
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah, the variance from
Yep. And to the mic so everyone can hear.
Yeah. You have a variance 10 years from the day that you installed the system, or that the permit was given and then the system was installed. So if you installed it in the last 5 years,
2 years ago.
you have an extra 7 years.
Very expensive 7 years. Okay.
Unfortunate.
Right. And then there's still money, potentially money is available.
Yes,
a
the betterment
available
loan
to
is still available.
Yeah, to go on to the next step if needed. Okay? All right, so we're on Green Meadows and Tashima. Any other comments? Yep, come on down.
Bob Dickinson, 15 Green Meadow Drive. If I understood Roberto's comments, it has to be an IA system for that variance?
Yes.
I don't know if yours is or is not. So the time frame, if you don't have an IA system, 2 years?
Yeah, I think so.
You get so much exercise this way, it's great.
Yeah, it's actually not a bad idea. Yes, the Regulation 69 from the Board of Health gives you 2 years to connect to the sewer if you're not in a nitrogen-sensitive area, which I don't believe Green Meadows is. I'll have to take a look again to make sure. If you are, it gives you 6 months to get the work started. You don't have to have everything done because we know there's going to be a rush of people. So if you're giving us a good faith effort, we're not going to be going after you.
Right. I'm in the position, we replaced our leach field at vast expense when we bought the house in 2010. So now I'm looking at a sewer privilege fee, a hookup fee, landscaping, plumbers, all of that stuff. It's a huge expense for an area that I don't believe is nitrogen sensitive. And, nobody living there is very wealthy. I mean, you can go outside and look at my car. So is there any thought of mitigation for some of these areas where there are people like me, like Jill, who just spent a whole bunch of money upgrading our septic systems, and now they're going to put the pipes in? And I mean, I think there's some people on that lane that are actually, that their septic systems are failing. So I know it's a complicated subject, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah, well,
I don't have a lot of money.
Right. Did
So-
you wanna-
I was going to say something, Mr. Chairman, but
you can go first.
I was just going to mention that this board has given, and with the prior members as well, has given quite a lot of thought to exactly what you're talking about. And in the end, town meeting approved this project with no betterments, because there was a proposal to assess betterments to all of the people who would be getting the sewer. So all of the taxpayers are paying for it and not just those homeowners. And I think everybody understands there is an expense to connecting with all of those
Right.
fees, Bob, that you mentioned. If anybody is in a situation where they have to have the grinder pump option, depending on the type of sewer line that they're getting, the board recently came up with a cost reduction on that, which Dan, maybe you could just quickly outline.
Yes, I believe there was, if you were in an IA system, the cost was $500 if you have to put a grinder pump, and that's what the town would charge you for the pump. If you're not, then the price is reduced, is a $1,500 charge. But again, that's a reduced fee versus what the cost of the pump actually is. So the town is picking up a share of the cost.
As far as the privilege fee goes, that is an expense. It's about $6,300 or so, and that can be paid over a period of 20 years.
Right, and then more of the point, I have a functioning septic right now. The last septic on the lot lasted 29 years, and now what you're saying is that I can pay off the $6,000 over 20 years, but then I also have to pay sewer fees.
Yes.
So you're forcing me to connect to something that I neither want nor need. At a lot of expense.
We could argue.
I just want to put that out there so that everybody understands what's going on.
Well, I think how you're presenting it isn't, it's how your perception of your circumstance, and I understand that. I think the reality is a lot of these areas were found to have needs. A lot of them have high groundwater. They have problems. The systems have problems operating. Some of the systems are operating improperly for years before they're replaced or fixed. So there was a lot of study that went into this. We didn't just throw darts on the wall and say, let's get these guys, you know?
Yeah, no,
And so I think people.
I'm neighborhood specific here.
Right. I understand.
You know, I understand. They're obviously Monomoy, Shemo. You want to sewer that. It's going directly into the harbor. But anyway, just thought I'd put that out there.
Thank you. All right. Yes, come back up.
Deborah Wilson again. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be obtuse, but I'm still not clear, if anyone could clarify for me, is Friendship Lane in a nitrogen-sensitive area? And what exactly, we also have a brand-new septic that went in 2014, 15. So we're in the same boat.
I think that's what Roberto's doing right now.
I'm just not clear what an IA system is and whether any of us have them, and whether Friendship Lane is a nitrogen-sensitive area.
Well, IA is an alternative system. It's fairly expensive, and it has a whole nother set of complicated, machinery with it. I'm guessing you have a traditional system, but, and if you have an IA system, you have a maintenance agreement, and you have someone who comes and checks it on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have someone doing that, then you probably don't have it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And now on the question of the areas, I think they're looking it up right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And while we're looking that up, is there someone else that would like to speak on this? Green Meadows and Tashima right now.
Hi, it's Olga Vaska, 11 Tashima. Can somebody clarify the fees? So somebody mentioned $1,500 for the pump, then there's some kind of fee, $6,500. So what are we looking at? Like what amount of money? And somebody also mentioned the loans. What are the terms for those loans? I know somebody said 20 years, but
Yeah, well,
just trying to come up with...
Some of this is hard to do because specific people are going to have different amounts.
Right,
So you
but
have to
what are the
understand.
ranges?
Yeah, but we can do that. Either Roberto or Libby will probably
Thank
do
you.
that.
Okay, I was looking up where the nitrogen-sensitive areas was, so can you repeat the question right now? Sorry.
It's about the fees.
Rundown of
So
fees.
There's, I apologize, we probably should have thought in advance to have our FAQ sheet here, because this is a public hearing for something that is not related to these questions, and that's why we've scheduled the neighborhood and other meetings. But there's a standard privilege fee for anyone who's, not just this project, who connects to sewer after April 24th, 2004, is subject to the privilege fee, and it's approximately $6,300. It can be paid over a period of 20 years. There is a sewer connection fee, and depending on what area you are located in, that is either a $2,000 fee or a $500 fee. And I would need David or Roberto to clarify which fee you're subject to, but it does depend on the area where you are.
Yes. Yeah, David Gray, sewer director. All these new areas here where the sewer is just becoming available, it's going to be a $500 connection fee.
If you connect within,
6 months.
thank you.
And then the privilege fee is $63.22.15 to be exact, so.
There's a fee for, if you are, again, this starts to get a little bit complicated after the couple of standard fees, but depending on what sewer line system you're going to be in, you may require a grinder pump if you are in a low-pressure system. And the fees on that, I think Dan mentioned, or Erica, what they are, and those really are location dependent. And I don't know if we're prepared to get into that tonight about what.
What number, Tashma, was it? 11. Okay, yeah, you're in the gravity zone area, so that would be the $500. So.
Right. And some of these, if people have questions, will be, the meetings will help as we go along, too.
We're very happy to answer questions like that. There's the connection to the line itself from your property, and that is also dependent on how much landscaping you have, how far away the dwelling is from the sewer line, things like that. So we can't really say an exact number on that.
And there's a decommissioning cost.
I'm sorry, yes, there's a decommissioning cost.
Which is, the permitting is $100, which we can easily waive. So.
And the decommissioning, again, depends on what type of septic system you have and what you intend to do with your property. Some people want to remove the septic system entirely so they could use their yard for something else. Others will just, whatever you do, crush it and.
Yeah, you can puncture the bottom and fill it with flowable fill. You can crush it in place and fill it up with regular sand. You can rip the whole thing out, and what everyone's afraid of is put a pool in. Whole 9 yards. If you have a septic pit, you have to fill those in. If you have a cesspool, you have to crush those in. If you have a leach field, you could leave those. Just chop and cut and cap the pipe. What I have up here is the nitrogen-sensitive areas from the town GIS. Everything in one of the cross-thatched areas is a nitrogen-sensitive area. The orange crossing is actually Zone 2 of our public drinking water wellhead. Yes, please, if I can find the button. Look at that. So everything here in the yellow is the wellhead protection district. You'll see the line continues on and even goes into the harbor watershed protection district. This is a teardrop shape that encompasses almost all of Mid-Island. This area, everything that comes out of a septic system leaches out, and there's the groundwater. That groundwater is the same groundwater that is connected to our drinking water. So we consider this a nitrogen and nutrient sensitive area. Everything in the blue, this blue area that kind of comes down, is our Nantucket Harbor watershed protection area. Everything in the blue, all the water that comes out of a septic system, all the nutrients and everything that comes out goes straight into our harbor. This area is what we call Zone B, and this darker blue area in the corner is what we call Zone A. Zone A goes without any nutrient reduction, which is basically everything in the Shimo Pond area. All of it goes straight to the harbor. Everything in this Zone B area, though it still goes straight into the harbor, there is still a little bit of reduction through the time. The only areas that are not in this picture, in this view that you see, that are not nitrogen sensitive are down here, this area of Equator, these areas of Friendship, Bartlett, Mizzenmast. So, as from what we're talking about here, this is the relevant picture, but if we were to zoom out, you would see all the nitrogen sensitive areas we have on the island,
Right.
which I'd be happy to show.
Do people like to see that, or? Yeah. All right, yeah, can we zoom out then? Yeah, let's show. And that'll answer it for the next couple, too.
So everything here in this brown area is the Nantucket nitrogen sensitivity. This is Zone B and Zone A. Just like I discussed, everything that goes into Zone B has 0 nitrogen reduction. Everything with Zone B has minimal nitrogen reduction, but there is some. This is the Hummock Pond watershed. This is all Zone A, same concept. Zone B of the Hummock Pond watershed, it abuts right up into the harbor watershed. So everything in the blue here is harbor watershed area. The cross-hatched area is Zone B. The hard area is Zone A. This teardrop is the wellhead protection district for the Wannacomet water wellheads. We protect this area because that is our sole source aquifer protection. It is Zone 2. This area that is set, this little, what looks like lips really, that area is actually set by the state. It is not us. This is the Zone 2 protection. And then this little teardrop shape at the end of the island over by Sconset, that is Zone 2 wellhead protection district for the Sconset wellheads. So all of these areas that are in those colored areas are considered nitrogen sensitive. Areas like Tom Nevers here, these lower areas in Mid-Island, these are not nitrogen sensitive areas. This groundwater flows directly into the ocean.
Okay, thank you, Roberta. Any other comments on Green Meadows or Tashima? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the Bayberry Lane area, which is number C. Does anyone like to comment on Bayberry Lane, Tacoma Way, or Amelia Drive, on those three? Come on up, please.
Even Rich Leone, 7 Bayberry. Just a question, we were mentioning earlier that it takes 6 months to hook up once it's in. My question is, are you anticipating all these things can be done and then within 6 months we're all doing it at the same time? What's the timetable here? I'm just curious if I have 6 months from when, if I go with this.
Yeah. So regulation-wise, it says 6 months from notification that it is available to you. But as far as the health department is concerned, as soon as you pull that permit from us, or you pull the permit with the sewer department to connect, with your intent to connect, we consider you in compliance. It's showing intent to connect. So we're not going to be fining people just because, 6 months is up, it's time to get you. That's not the way we work.
So we have basically 6 months to give intent.
Yes, you have the 6 months to give the intent and to get the mobilization time frame from us.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments on Bayberry Lane area? Okay. All right, now we're on the Shimo, and just for the record, I have owned property on Rugged Road, and that was in this last area, but we're not doing anything. Yeah, I'm bound by the same thing you guys are bound with, so I'm just noting that. All right, the Shimo area? Yes?
Just real briefly, on the Shimo project area, there are approximately 11 locations where the traveled way actually meanders outside of the right-of-way. So there are approximately 11 private property type easements included in this area.
All right, are those underway currently? Are we asking for those easements?
They're in your packet as well, yep.
Okay, they're in there, okay. And are we getting those willingly and for free? Or for $1, let's say?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know about the willingly, but we haven't, we're here tonight to hear.
Yeah, well, I personally would like I would like to discuss anyone that is not doing it willingly.
Yes.
Because I think, it's an important thing to do, and in asking the town to compensate them for that, I think is unreasonable when all the other taxpayers are helping to do this.
Yeah.
So.
But just the reason for the private property is because we're keeping the sewer line in the traveled way.
Right.
So we're not cutting trees and bushes and shrubs and going into landscaped areas or wooded areas. We're keeping all the work in the roadway.
Right, great. All right, does anyone want to speak on any of the Shimo areas or any comments? All right, seeing none. All right, does the board have any questions or comments?
No.
None? All right. So is there an action from the board? All right, let me first, so we'd like to close the public hearing. So I have a motion?
Motion to close public hearing.
Yeah, a second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now do we have an action that we would like to contemplate? Such as moving this along, move approval of motion to accept? Yes.
I'll make motion to take the easements.
Yep.
Second
All
that.
right. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we're on number 2, public hearing to consider joint petition for Verizon New England and National Grid. All right. Come on up.
Good evening, Tom Stanton representing Verizon,
Okay.
and we're asking permission to set a half pole on Vespa Lane, and this is in conjunction with the Nantucket Cottage Hospital project.
All right. Now, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here for this specific location? Okay, no? Yeah, so I'm going to close the public hearing on that portion then. All right, the board, do you have any questions?
No.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, number 3, public hearing, National Grid Nantucket Electric for Plan 229755818. Thanks.
James Huxley, engineer with National Grid. And which street is this?
This is, yeah.
Yes, Parker Lane, a new house is going in at, I believe it's number 1A, and the customer's looking for electric service, and he's going to tunnel under the roadway, and we're looking for a petition to do that.
All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on Parker Lane? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public
So
hearing?
moved.
All right, so let's move to close it. All right, the board, any questions, comments?
I make a motion to approve the request.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then when we do this, when we make the motions, just for you guys to know, there are recommendations that are made by staff that are in there that will be followed. And so, and these guys know that. All right, where are we? We're at number 4, public hearing? Yep. Yep, Delaney.
Yes, Delaney Road. Same thing, customer at number 16 is looking for service. He's looking to tunnel under the roadway to an existing pole, and there is an issue there where the existing pole is going to be
Move.
relocated.
Right,
I don't know when, but I'm trying to get service to this person now.
right.
And
So how do you suggest that we handle that if
Well,
they're both in the queue now, right? To move the pole and to do this?
I don't think the one on the pole is in the queue yet. I don't think National Grid has seen the request yet.
They have. I just happened to randomly speak to the homeowner, and he sent me an email, this is just today, that he's paid for the, from Corinne, Corinne at Verizon, I think. Corinne. There was an email saying that it was paid for that pole to be moved.
But National Grid, I don't believe, has seen it yet.
Okay.
I got an email Friday that's saying it's on its way to National Grid, and then National Grid's going to send it to the town. And then who knows when, the hearing is, and who knows when the poll gets set.
Right.
So if the conduit gets ran to the current pole, and then we move the pole again, what happens? You just,
I'll just run a new pipe over to the existing. They're moving the pole 14 feet. So I'll have the electrician run it to the existing pole now, and then, energize the service. And then when the new pole's set, I'll just, run it
You'll come off that and go 14
over to
feet?
it, yeah.
Libby? We had a letter.
For the record, make a note that there is an objection we received to this petition. They are asking that basically this be denied, so that it sounds like you want all the work to happen at the same time. So I don't know if that's something you automatically coordinate.
Well, I'm here to give this person that's looking for power now. If you want to, it's up to the town to decide what they want to do. If you want to do it all at the same time, that's fine, but then you might be talking 2-3 months down the road. I don't know when,
Understood. So how would we, if we have a situation like this, what's the best way to coordinate it so we aren't doing things twice? So that's your sort of,
Although, Mr. Chairman, probably it's them doing the thing twice, so I don't know if the town would care about that.
And the town's not paying for it to be done twice.
Is it additional cost to the homeowner to do it twice?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, National Grid does it. I was just going to say too, I would assume it would be difficult to coordinate it only because you're getting separate petitions from different homeowners and you'd have no idea when those are coming in.
Right.
So,
well, all right, so I guess, have I closed this one? I don't think I have. So is there have I closed this one? No, all right. So we did have one letter in opposition. Is there anyone here to speak on Delaney Road on this specific? All right, seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing. All right, what's the pleasure of the board? Well, we can discuss it. We don't have to do a motion right away. What do you?
So what I'm hearing is the best thing is to run the line now, give them electricity. When the pole moves, you do that almost at the same time. The pole gets moved and electricity
Yeah,
gets moved
the
over.
problem is when you have two companies, when they set the pole, when the petition comes through, maybe, I don't know, it could be 2, 3, could be 4 weeks before the pole's set. Then it's going to be another couple of weeks before we're out there, and, it just runs into a lot of time. And I mean, I have no problem if you say, he's got to go to the relocated pole. It's just, I guess it's kind of up to you guys to.
Is there someone living there right now?
No, it's a new home, but the electrician's been calling me constantly,
Yeah.
he's trying to get service to it.
But it could delay electricity going to this home for another 2 or 3 months possibly, if we deny
Yeah,
this.
something doesn't, yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah, if it's not a cost to the town, it's not efficient, but withholding the electricity to the house doesn't make sense.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks. All right, we're on number 5, and that is Schedule 40.
This is Tom
Tom
Nevers.
Nevers.
Same type thing, new home, existing pole on the other side of the street, they got a tunnel under the roadway into their property.
And we're going under the road again, I assume?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this? Seeing none, I'm close the hearing. Okay, any questions from the board?
No.
I make a motion to approve
And a second?
this petition.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Number 6, we're having a public hearing to make Westminster Street between Quince and Hussey Streets one-way, southbound. Now, this is kind of interesting, because I went to school there, and, in the 60s, and I always assumed it was one-way this direction anyway.
Right.
It's sort of, I don't think, other than riding my bike illegally up it, I thought, I don't imagine that it was two-way.
And I think a lot of people driving think it's one way.
Yeah, I hope so. All right.
I'm sure,
Yeah, I wonder if they've been ticketed for going up there. All right, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone that would like to speak on the Westminster Street, the mystery one-way street? No? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to close it. All right, and the board?
I make a motion to make Westminster Street between Quince and Hussey one-way southbound.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
Aye.
All right, all those in favor? Yes,
Aye.
that's unanimous. Okay, number 7, public hearing to consider application for a new annual general on-premise all alcoholic beverage license for the White Heron Theater. And before we get started, I'll just give the public how we're going to do this. We're just opening the hearing right now. The applicant's going to review the pending application, then we'll take public comment, and then questions from the board or from the public. Then we'll close it to the public, and then we can deliberate. So the first one is we're going to open the hearing. So
Great. Thank you. Amy Baxter, Licensing Administrator. Welcome to Rita and Jason. Do a couple things for your benefit, being the first liquor license that you've reviewed. In the packet, oh good, you have the liquor license public hearing process. and that I think covers what I was going to say, that as local licensing authority, the Board of Selectmen is to determine the license's public need pursuant to MGL 138 to approve or grant a transfer or granting of a new license. In public need, like local licensing authority should look at a variety of factors, including the pre-existing licenses in the area, traffic and noise in the proposed area, opinions of the neighborhood and overall reputation of the applicant, impact on the community and resources are some of the things to consider along with these here as well. In this case, excuse me here, with White Heron, a couple things to consider. I'd like to, as I've been doing for the past couple of licenses, discuss the big picture of liquor licenses. This is a new liquor license application, meaning this location has not seen a liquor license in the past. It's not a transfer or a new ownership. It is a new location. We currently have 96 liquor licenses during the full season. 54, I believe, are seasonal, the rest annual. This would be number 97. So considering obviously the impact of these liquor licenses on our resources in the community as well as we go into each of these. Also in this application, a similar application came before the board last year. A similar type of operation, a theater workshop of Nantucket, did apply for a similar liquor license, which is a general on-premise license. This type of license does not require a common vicular, which means no food service. It's generally for events and things of that sort. They were denied at the time. This was last year. I included the letter with those reasons as well. That was a different situation. It was denied based on there was neighborhood response in need in that area and also the location being in a church. And they were not owners of that location as well. So those reasons were given at the time. So just for your knowledge, it's a very similar type of application. In this case, White Heron Theater is a new build. In that sense, they're up to all the fire regulations and safety regulations, so there were no departmental objections to a liquor license in this location because of that reason. We would like to put some considerations on this license should it be granted. The location, obviously inside the bar area and the theater area is all set up. I think, do we have photos in that? So that part, there's no objection to. The conditions that, if we look at the photo here of the courtyard area, this photo, I never do well with this thing. So this photo, yeah, don't get me in this thing. Of the patio areas where I want to put conditions on, because this photo is taken directly from the sidewalk. As it is naturally, it's completely open to. The service would be inside in the bar area, but people would be able to stand outside in this patio area adjacent to the bar. Per the state patio guidelines and our regulations, any patio area, service of alcohol in a patio area needs to be cordoned off in such a way, whether it's a fence, a rope, which I believe they do during performances, and to have staff there that would be controlling access to that location because it is right on a sidewalk. The service would be indoors, and the conditions would be also that I think they're planning on, it's only for ticketed events and for special events, so it's not an open bar situation where someone from the street can walk in and get a drink. It's specifically for these events as well. And also there is a planning board restriction on noise and events at midnight, so we would require the same time frame for the liquor license as well. So the conditions we would request definitely would be on the patio area and the rope and staff making sure that that access is controlled as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Kopko?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, and congratulations to the new members of the board, Ms. Gibson and Erica. Thank you for hearing our application this evening. Just to quickly address some of the things Amy said, and that was I appreciate her presentation. We certainly would intend to cordon the patio area. We have stanchions and velvet ropes. It's kind of a theater effect, which we like down there, and we do keep that area cordoned off from the public when we have an event there. it is kind of an unusual application in that the primary use of the facility is for live performances of theatrical productions and music and such. And we will be selling refreshments that are ancillary to those events. And as part of those refreshment offerings, we would like to be able to offer a type of wine, a type of sparkling wine, and what we call a sort of signature cocktail that's been developed for the White Heron Theater Company. And so in the course of service, it would be, we open the doors for a performance an hour before the performance. Some performances have intermissions, so we would also serve during intermissions. And then for maybe a half an hour after, there are often gatherings of patrons discussing the performances, meeting the actors, things like that in the lobby. We would not, I would not anticipate doing any service during performances because obviously if you've been to a live play, you don't want people getting up and going out to the lobby, so we would close during the actual performances. Like Amy said, there is no access to this service to the general public. People can't just walk in off the street and buy a drink. And we want to keep the service as limited as possible. And that describes probably 99% of the activity that goes on in the building. From time to time, we're a nonprofit organization. Our revenues are about 30% earned revenue and 70% unearned revenue at this point. So any kind of revenue stream that we can bring in that helps us to pay our way is obviously, we're grateful for that. And all of the revenues that come in go straight to programming and on the stage as a nonprofit organization. From time to time, we do have a benefit events where our benefactors and patrons come and make donations and see a performance, and we would want to serve maybe a fuller bar at a special event like that. We do rent the venue from time to time. For example, the film festival will be a film festival venue this year, so we'd like to be able to they'll have some kind of refreshment going on there. I think that all of the sort of conditions that Amy mentioned that we're not only agreeable to, but we're anxious to have those restrictions. One thing we don't want to be is in the bar business. This is not our intent to be in the bar business. If you've been to a professional theater, Cape Playhouse, Wellfleet Harbor Actors Theater, the Harbor Stage, the Peregrine, and Provincetown, they all have offered this kind of offering during the performance. So I hope that you found our application to be fairly fulsome. I know some of you have come and seen the venue. We're very proud of our theater. Like Amy mentioned, it's a brand new public assembly venue in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so it's probably the safest building anyone's ever been in. So the codes are all met. And I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns that you might have.
All right. Do we have any right now while he's here? We'll call you back up if we have any questions.
Okay.
This is a public hearing, so I'd like to open it up to the public for any comments, please.
Good evening. Sarah Alger. As I think you know, I represent the owners of Graydon House at the corner of North Water and Broad. I myself have an office now at 4 North Water Street, directly across the street from the theater. I represent the owners of 9 Periwinkle, as well as Oren Moore Bistro at the corner of Whalers Lane and, North Beach Street. And we are all enthusiastically in support of this application. We think it's very appropriate for the theater to be able to serve to its patrons. We're not concerned about noise or traffic. The people will already be there enjoying the performance, so we don't see that as an issue. We think that they've been a great addition to this area of Nantucket, what do we call that? The NOBO area or something. something like that, right? Yeah, no-bow. I am in it. I am now a proud no-bower. And anyway, we think that this meets all the tests. It's a unique situation, and I think quite different from the theater workshop, which had a lot of neighborhood concern and was really directly next to the church. This is quite a ways from the church, and we're very happy to have them.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak from the public on this? All right. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing portion. And the board, it's up for discussion. Is there anything?
I just had a question. Have we received any letters or comments in opposition?
No, I've not received any comments on this.
Thank you.
Amy, just to clarify, were you suggesting a restriction that service is inside only?
That the actual service is inside at the bar, correct? That the people have the ability to gather out on the patio area. But a special event, I think they possibly may set up a bar outside.
But would they have to come and ask for it, though, or what's?
That would be something we'd have to determine now.
We have, that would be in the nature, like Amy said, of special events. And, that, to date, we've had one or two annually. We did have one last year, a pretty big one, actually, where we had a caterer come in and set up a bar on the patio. We had the proper licensing for that, and certainly didn't get any negative feedback from that event.
We temporarily permitted this location in the past as they were building in the 10 area, so it's obviously much better to have a permanent liquor license in this. And I would just say, again, as we're talking about the roping off of the area, if we can go down a little bit so I can see the patio, is it where those poles come down? As long as the service is beyond that, I think coming from this pole forward is where the sidewalk is. We certainly wouldn't want a bar or anything in that area, so I think we would be specific as far as any outdoor service being along that back wall there, so it's not impeding traffic and it's not within sight of that sidewalk.
Yeah, the event that we did have, actually, the bar was set up around the corner, so it was hardly even viewable from the street.
Right.
Which is where we'd want it to be. And like I said, we really don't want to be in the bar business. This would be strictly for the rare special event that we would set up anything outdoors at all.
So I think we'd be amenable to that.
Would we want to put a limitation on the numbers of those rare special events, or is there some way to handle this?
No, I don't think, you could certainly consider that. We have precedent certainly for special event limitations as far as live entertainment and that sort of thing is concerned. As far as putting restrictions on number, I don't think you can in this liquor situation. I know we've done that entertainment-wise because of noise and that sort of thing and regulations, but I think liquor-wise, it would be, you have to set the hours and times of days per week.
And the applicant stipulated that is rare.
Yes.
Correct,
And
correct.
If there were an issue, you'd bring it back.
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Police chief would bring it back.
Yeah, we
If there
review
are
it on a yearly
violations.
basis.
Yep.
Yes.
We can review it on a yearly basis anyway, but I'm just,
Correct. And if there were a number of complaints logged in with the police and that sort of thing, we can certainly bring them back for that hearing. But we would stipulate as far as location of outdoor entertainment and those sorts of conditions.
And certainly, as a new licensee, we would consider this to be a probationary year, essentially, that we'd see how it went. And, if there were complaints or issues, we'd expect to hear about them.
And this is your first full year of operation?
This is our first full year, yep. We opened July 25th last year,
Great.
Could I make a motion to approve the application with the accommodation noted in terms of coming up with a agreement on where the velvet?
Well, there's the fence, there's the indoor service, there's the bar, sort of
Correct, and
outside.
hours.
If it's outside.
And you have a drawing in your packet with the red lines, and the red line outdoors comes to that near column.
Right.
So we wouldn't, and the patio, like I said, 99% of the time, it's just people carrying drinks, there's no service out there.
Yeah,
But we won't let anybody go past that point.
That's perfect.
Right.
Correct.
All right, and then the only other issue is that I can think of is the hours. We said midnight. Is
Would be-
midnight acceptable? You want earlier?
Absolutely. Well, no, I mean, midnight is fine. I don't anticipate that we'll be doing that on a regular basis, but if we wanted to do one night, a cabaret or something.
Right.
And then how about music outside? Is there any amplified music or anything
No,
like that?
no.
Okay.
And I believe
It's entertainment. That would
Yeah,
be
I'm just
Correct.
making sure.
They do have an entertainment license for the building. I think that the midnight time comes from the planning board.
Okay.
Yeah. And we want to be good neighbors. We don't want to disturb
Yes.
neighbors.
And just, we also, with your vote, we also need to make a determination on the church being within 500 feet.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. We can do that second.
Yeah, second.
Okay. So we've got a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all those opposed? None. Okay, now we have to make a motion.
Thank you very much.
That it's within 500 feet, so we have to find that it is not detrimental to the use, to the church. So a motion to that.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. All right, thank you very much. We are now at the town manager's report.
We have our third quarter budget reports for the current fiscal year for our Island Home Sewer Enterprise and Solid Waste. And I think Rachel is going to take us through Island Home, and Finance Director is going to take us through the other two. Oh, were you going to do Island Home?
You want to do mine?
All right.
Good evening, Rachel Day, Director for Human Services, and I will try to do my best to briefly go over our third quarter report for the Island Home. One of the biggest areas that we have right now to report on is that in terms of our revenue. If you notice our budget compared to our 9-month actual, we're about 12% below our anticipated budget. That's the overall budget for the year, I believe. But we are about 2% over where we were last year. A lot of that has to do with the payer mix, so how many individuals that we have in the facility that are private, that are Medicare or Medicaid. We tend to average about 70% Medicaid, about 25% private. Within this quarter, the 3 quarters in total, what we've shown is that we're about 27% in private and maybe 67% in Mass Health or Medicaid. So that mix and kind of incorporates where the dollars are falling to.
But wouldn't that increase your revenue?
That's the point, yes.
Okay.
2% over last year from the FY16.
Just the 2%.
So.
Okay.
You can also look at it, right now our rates are about $145 a day to $277 under Mass Health, depending on the level of care the resident needs, while our private patient amounts are $440 a day. So if you have even the slightest percentage shift from your Mass Health to your private, it does create a pretty significant revenue increase, and that's where we're seeing the difference from last year.
Did you have a rate increase this year?
We did not, no. We have been talking about that a little bit with a few of the committees that have been working with the Island Home in terms of projected cost. That is something that we might have to look into doing, and we would bring that forward to you to have a public hearing on at some point in the future. We are also required by regulations to provide at least 60 days notice to all individuals of any rate increases, so we would all work that timing out.
Have you had any beds closed because of maintenance or repairs?
Not as of yet, no.
Okay.
That's something the building committee meets again, I believe, on the 27th. And we will be kind of maybe discussing all of the capital needs that we have within the building and how to best address some of these going forward. But as of yet, we do not have in place or have discussed a plan to close any beds due to maintenance. The projected balance of our certified retained earnings, as you can see, about $7.8 million. That is due to the anticipated surplus that we have. We really only look at this as a projection. It's not a solidified number because it's not certified by the Department of Revenue and we haven't closed the year yet. Some of that funding was just approved as well for capital projects for 2 areas, about $400,000 for the current building. Is there any questions on that?
Just on your revenue, do you have a plan to make up the difference between the actual and the budget by the end of the year?
Usually, the CPE kind of helps offset that. What we're seeing is that in our Medicare, we're bringing in about the same amount that we've had in our Medicare, but the acuity level, so the reimbursement level, is much lower. We, oddly enough, have had, compared to last 3 quarters of fiscal 16 to compared to now, we're about 1.5% higher in our census. But in terms of general plan, in order to bring in more individuals to try and make up any of the difference that we have, we don't have anything in place at this time, no.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Did she go over the expenses?
She didn't. Do you want to hit the expenses real quick? Yeah, I think we'll come back to it.
It doesn't, I don't think it particularly matters. You can do the summary page, it's kind of
Yeah.
easier to look at. The other one's a little busy. In terms of our expenses, we are only about 0.5% more than we were in compared to last year. So we are pretty much under budget compared to where we anticipated we'd be in the third quarter. I was reviewing some of this a little bit earlier to try and figure out where a lot of our savings, so to speak, or where a lot of our expenditures that we anticipated having aren't existing right now. Our medical supplies and our food is a lot lower than we anticipated. A lot as in, say, $10,000 difference from where we were last year and where we budgeted to be this year. I don't really have a particular reason for the food. It's not like we've cut out anything in our menu. It could just be that the contracted prices that we purchase under state contract had been adjusted. Medical supplies is usually directly correlated to the type of residents that we have in our facility. We do not have as many high acuity residents that we did compared to last year that required a lot of catheterization or wound management supplies. And so anything along those lines has reduced our anticipated need. We also, within the expenditures, our blanket insurance for the entire building. At this time last year, we had paid that in about $160,000. That has not been processed yet in this section of the
So
Mm-hmm.
we'll
quarter.
see
you'll
that
see
in the
that
next quarter. Right.
I just had a question, repairs and maintenance. You
Sure.
budgeted 44,000.
Yes.
And we all know that there's a lot of repairs that need to be done. You only expended 24/7. Is there a
Yes.
reason for?
Under that line item, it's general, very general maintenance and repairs.
Right.
So a lot of
I
that is
understand.
our hood cleaning, our fire inspections, everything along those lines. We have pushed off one of the fire inspections, and obviously, it's not going to make up the difference of the $20,000, but we do have to have a wet test on our system, and we will have to replace some significant sections of our sprinkler pipe due to that. But a lot of that money that came out from last fiscal year to this fiscal year that made up the difference was the emergency repairs that we had on a section of our roof. So without having that, we had to redo part of the flashing because even though we had the roof part, the project, it leaked a little bit. I believe that was in that year. We have a capital account that has general repairs, maintenance, building that we have been relying on a little bit more than the operating budget as well.
Okay. Any other questions on expenses? Questions in general? All right. No,
Great,
good.
thank you.
Thanks.
I think actually David Gray is going to do the sewer enterprise
Okay.
budget.
Yep. And then let's let David go through his presentation quickly first, and then we'll open it to questions. How does that sound?
Good evening again, everyone. David Gray, Sewer Director. Where we stand right now, the total revenue is down just about 1%, and that's due to a timing issue with fees coming in and stuff like that. So we're where we should be according to all of the documentation that we have. On one of the line items, it shows a little bit of a lower sewer fee drop in revenues. Again, that's another timing issue compared to last year. We're right exactly where we should be according to everything that's moving along. Our expenditures, as you can see, I'm on the second page here. I'm just my big sheet on this one here. Our total expenditures are down about 3% this year, and that's partly for me trying to be pretty frugal with everything, just a new department and everything, so we're just trying to get everything in order and just keep everything the way we are. Our biggest increase, as you'll see, it was in the salaries, but that had to do a lot with our supplemental snow plowing, assisting with the DPW and plowing and stuff. That was a lot of overtime that our crew had to get in on, and some supplemental dewatering and stuff that we did. But other than that, we are...
Were there any new hires? Because it was...
We do have we have a new office staff, and we've had a couple of people, we've had 2 people retire, one person left, and we've brought in 2 new people right now, and we're doing some more interviews. So we're trying to get back up to staff. So there's some fluctuations in there where one of the retirees left at a much higher rate than the new person came in at. So there are some differences. But other than that, I had a meeting today with Brian. I think we're doing pretty good so far. So.
All right. Anyone have any questions on this? No?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now we're on solid waste.
You can start with the summary, that's fine, probably. Good evening, everyone. So as you can see from the summary of the cover sheet, revenue is down about 10%, which is consistent with the way we've been moving through the year, given the fact that when we changed the MU rate, we saw the substantial decrease in the mixed excavation waste coming into the facility, which obviously, since we moved it from 30 to 60, that's with that decrease, we've seen about a 10% reduction. Coupled with that is the landfill bills are slowly actually starting to trickle in. We're about $80,000 down from where we were last year, but as of today, we're making that up, and we should be able to hit that benchmark or that target, which I'll talk about on the second page. Revenues, or expenses, excuse me, are down as well, which is consistent with the fact that with the change in the mixed excavation waste tipping fee from 30 to 60, we saw the decline, which would correlate into a decrease in expenditures. One thing to note is that now that the Amendment 6 has been signed, that's one thing that we'll be working on and following closely to see if there's any changes that will impact they would all impact the fourth quarter at this point because of the timing of when that was signed. So that's something that we'll be paying very close attention to as we move forward here. You can go into the detail if you want. So as I had mentioned, the landfill fees, which is sent out to all the commercial businesses on the island, were about $80,000 down from last year, but that's timing and due to the timing of when the bills went out. But we are, they have been coming in, and we do believe we'll hit the budgeted number and won't have a problem there. Expenses relatively in line with what we have expected. We are looking at the 2 of them that are down substantially are professional services and recycling. Evidently, recycling is not as it's not as lucrative to be taking care of it right now, so it's not being taken off island and sold at the rate that it was. So we're down in the expense side there, and freight as well. The hard to handle is not being shipped off as frequently as it has been in the past. So again, as we move through the fourth quarter, into this fourth quarter here, we'll certainly be paying attention to those to make sure that we stay within those numbers and don't have any issues.
And that was a positive of the higher rate, was our freight. Sure. We lost $1 million less this year than we did the year before.
Right.
So that'll be interesting to see with the change what happens. All right. Any other questions on this, guys? Great.
No.
All right.
Yes, so I'll stand right here, actually.
Yep, and you can move right into the review of the new quarterly financial report format.
So what we wanted to do over the last probably 6 to 9 months, we've been trying to figure out a way to provide more information in somewhat of a different format to make it easier for us to not only present it to the board, but to put it on the website to put it out to the public. So next week, we actually are going to present this to the board, but we wanted to go through it with you today to kind of give you an idea and give you a little advanced presentation on what it's going to look like, and if there's anything that you thought you might like to see in it, we still have a little bit of time that we can work on putting that in. We've tried to make it a little bit more comprehensive. Obviously with a table of contents, we try to also minimize it to as few pages as possible, but putting in as much content within those pages as we could. So if you go to the next, to page 2, So we've created a financial highlights, which kind of will talk about what happened during the quarter on a very high level. Just a few quick blurbs about what's gone on, with a few graphs at the bottom being the revenues and expenditures over a 5-year history. And then we have a complete page snapshot which has within it some of the more important local estimated receipts, being rooms and meals rooms tax, excise tax, building permits, and meals tax as well. And along with a donut graph, which now seems to be all the rage among graphs for presentations, with all of the different types of fees that we collect. Go ahead. And then what we've done here is we've attempted to make this more of a true quarterly report. This first page of general fund revenues is actual quarter-to-quarter comparison, to show what happened in fiscal 17 versus the trailing year ago quarter for being fiscal 16. Go ahead to the next page, please. And then to try to give the board an update or a snapshot of what's happened on the 9-month period, we've done the 9-month to date, which is July 1st through the end of March. And then the year ago period in the same presentation, just to kind of give the quarter and the year-to-date presentation that we can discuss. We've done the very same thing with the expenses. We can probably go right by them. It's the same exact presentation on the expenditure side. We've also tried to create a spreadsheet. We're still working on this a little bit, to try to finalize for next week, but it really wants to show what we've done for capital projects or what we're moving forward with on capital projects, where we may be on some of those, what we've spent quarterly and through this third quarter, and then what we've done on a 7-year history in that same period. Julia Linder, our financial analyst, has been putting in yeoman's effort to get this done in a way that's readable and hopefully helpful to everyone. We created a page 2 for financing activity. This really will probably be more utilized if we go out in any of the quarters and actually have a bond sale. It'll give you the results of the bond and tell you what the premium was, how it's allocated, and what we got for rates and whatnot. And at the bottom, we'll continuously update you on what the credit ratings are with the 2 rating agencies. This page, a few of you board members will be familiar with. It's called the Muni Watch. It's basically our little stoplight system to tell us where any trends are that we need to look at, or if there's any positive or negatives that we need to be mindful of. Next page would be great. And then the last page is as some of you remember, when we rewrote the policies for the town, there was a requirement to have an investment and report on our investments for stabilization funds. So we've worked with our advisor at Morgan Stanley and come up with kind of a snapshot of what's happened in the month, where some of the money is invested, how it's performed, and a strategic outlook on what we think is going to happen within the next 3 months. And whether we think there's anything that we need to be mindful of or could impact our returns.
The strategic outlook, is that your internal, or is that from Morgan Stanley?
That's in discussion with Morgan Stanley on what we've, not only what we've seen.
I just want to know if I should make investments based on this.
Well,
I just did, so.
We invest in certainly a lot of different things, but
great.
it's
good.
Yes.
Very good.
So this is kind of the format that we've come up with, and hopefully if it's something that you think is useful and worthwhile, the goal is to roll it out to all the enterprise funds as well.
Any questions, you guys?
Can I just ask you a quick question about the donut?
Sure.
The donut graph?
Sure.
So for any of those donut graph ones, when it says 14% or 10% of something, is that, say for the general fund one, 20% of 1.82 million? Is that, if we're trying to get an idea of what that actual amount is?
Well, that would be 20%. Which one are you looking at?
So when they're saying 26%.
That's 26% of the total.
And the total
is? The total expenditures. It would be on the second page.
On the second page?
Yes,
okay. Oh, I see, okay.
So.
I do like the 5-year look back or 7-year look back, and I think that's important because when you look year to year, it may look like we haven't gone up very quickly, or we haven't gone up much.
Right.
But when you go back 5 years or 7 years, you've gone from 2.9 to 4.1, 4.2. So it's sort of, I think that's helpful. The only thing that I'd asked this, I think, previous was on the investment report. I think we should have, how much do we pay to, for like, if you have a mutual fund, you look to see what are your expenses. I think that, what we're paying.
We can carve that out and include that in what it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's important because that keeps them honest if they're thinking of charging us more. It's right there. It's front and center.
We'll certainly include that in the investment report part. Absolutely.
Is there any other thoughts or questions?
I don't know how strongly you feel about this, but is there any, you're going to report on the activity on the pension funds? I don't know if that's in here.
We could include it if you would like. We haven't included it, but I
I
can.
mean, if you think it would be,
I have no problem putting it in if
Okay.
it's something you'd like to see.
Yeah, I would.
That's fine. We may not be able to pull it together for
that's fine.
this.
And it's less volatile than it was a couple of
Yes,
years ago, I
right.
think.
But
because-
we will add it as
Okay.
another page. Absolutely.
But I think that's a good suggestion, because that's what we spend most of our money on, is
Yes.
are those issues. Yeah, I think in figuring out how to present that in a way that people understand, I think is pretty important. Okay. Is there anything else?
Mr. Chairman, just so you know, next week, we're going to have the remaining third quarter reports. And Ryan, I missed what you said. But those are not going to be in this format
They are not
just
going to be
yet.
in this format.
So I think starting in fiscal 18 is when we were going to start
The
with
goal
the
would
new
be to roll
format.
the remaining enterprise funds, because I will say it takes an awful lot of work to build that all together. So the goal would be the first quarter of fiscal 18, all enterprise funds would be in that format as well.
But you'll build your budget
Yes.
using this format?
Yes.
Okay.
So that you'll have, after next week, you'll have one more, the fourth quarter end-of-year report for everybody, which won't be quite in this format, but that'll be the last.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item, the fire station work group update, we've had to table that because there was personal issue with regard to our owner's project manager, who we were hoping to have here tonight, but he couldn't make it. So we've got it rescheduled for next week.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, committee reports? Do we have any reports?
I just have one. The Capital Review Committee is beginning their kind of look back over the next few weeks, and it looks like we may have a new representative, but it's a good opportunity they're basically looking back at the process over the last year, improvements that can be made going forward, and so it'll be a worthwhile exercise.
Great. Anything else?
Jim, did you want that committee? I didn't mean to.
No.
interrupt you.
I'm making the segue to you.
Okay.
In other words, it might be good for you to go when I was going to let you know when they meet again.
All right, seeing no more committee reports, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Rita, you could, if you want to start.